Well, hi guys, it's One Love Ted, and it's time for Ted's afternoon story. I am reading from the Pushcart War, and today we are in Chapter 7, The Words That Triggered the War, Wenda Gambling's Innocent Remark. What finally brought matters to a head was a television program called The Day the Traffic Stopped. The day before the program, the traffic had stopped entirely, and one of the television stations had hurriedly called in a panel of experts to explain why. The members of the panel were Robert Alexander Wrightston, Traffic Commissioner of New York; Alexander P. Wolfson, head of Wolfson & Wolfson Specialists in Traffic Coordination; Dr. Wolf Alexander, a traffic psychologist; and Wenda Gambling, a well-known movie star. Wenda Gambling was hardly an expert on traffic, but as the other three panel members were elderly men, one stout, one bald, one nearsighted, the moderator of the program felt that the panel would be more interesting to the audience if Wenda were at the table. In introducing Wenda, the moderator of the program said, "As we all know, Miss Gambling's new movie, The Streets of New York, is being shot on the streets of New York, and as the streets of New York are the subject of our discussion tonight, it is very appropriate that she should be here." Wenda tactfully left most of the talking to the experts. Each of the three men had a different theory as to why the traffic had stopped. Robert Alexander Wrightston said there was no cause for alarm, that the whole thing was a simple matter of what he liked to call the density of moving objects. Alexander P. Wolfson disagreed. He said the problem involved nothing more than a predictable increase in the number of unmoving objects. Dr. Wolf Alexander said that it did not matter whether the objects were moving or unmoving, as the whole thing could be easily solved by a more thorough conditioning of drivers to hopeless situations. "And what do you think, Miss Gambling?" asked the moderator, as the three experts began to argue with each other. "I don't know what they are talking about," said Wenda Gambling. "Well," said the moderator, who was not quite sure himself, "I believe our subject this evening was traffic." "Oh," said Wenda Gambling, "well, I think that there are too many trucks and that the trucks are too big." Since most of the television audience had been watching Wenda Gambling rather than the experts, and since everyone watching did know what Wenda was talking about, this one remark received more attention than anything else that was said on the program. Before the program was off the air, over 5,000 viewers had called the station to say that they agreed with Wenda Gambling. Professor Lyman Cumberly has suggested that except for Wenda Gambling's innocent remark, there might never have been a Pushcart War. Instead, says Professor Cumberly, the trucks would have simply gone on, taking over the city, crowding out the taxis, buses, cars, and finally the people themselves. No one would have challenged them until it was too late. It would, Professor Cumberly believed, have been the end of life in New York as we now know it. But once Wenda Gambling had stated the danger for her all to hear, war was inevitable. And that is Chapter 7 of the Pushcart War, and I'll be back tomorrow afternoon with Chapter 8, The Secret Meeting and Declaration of War, excerpts from the diary of Joe Coughlin. See you tomorrow, or join me for my bedtime story this evening. Thanks for tuning in.